Okay, it should be recording, but yeah, okay. Maybe just really quickly, you could introduce yourself, what you studied and what you do now.
Yeah, so my name is Naomi Carrillo. I graduated UC Irvine in 2015. I was a mathematics major, and I had a concentration in applied and computational math. I also did a minor in statistics, and I am currently a principal consultant in data and analytics for Slalom Consulting.
Okay, and how did you get interested in sort of the field of consulting and went from studying math? Did you always know that's where you wanted to go, or was that something you figured out along the way?
Yeah, that's a great question. Something that I always like to share is that I started consulting, but I didn't know what it was. I know it's a bit of a mysterious type of industry if you're not familiar with it. But
Right.
typically, when I was at UCI, some of my favorite courses were my programming courses, I believe it was like Math 105. I loved my stats courses. So that was kind of like my introduction to data and analysis with data and like the different things you can do with data and how real world it felt. It was applicable to a lot of different domains, whether it's healthcare, business, et cetera. So I knew I wanted to do that. And I actually got my first job in consulting, and it was at one of the UCI career fairs. So something I very highly recommend is always using the career center and all the different resources that they have, because I was able to kind of like introduce myself to the employer and kind of show them where I'm coming from and what I'm interested in. And it really aligned with what they were looking for. It just so happened to be in consulting. So now that I've gotten a chance to learn what consulting is, right, it's essentially just being contracted by different companies to do different work for them in data and analytics. It's been a field that I really love. I think it's challenging. It's also very fast paced. So there's just always something new to learn wherever I go, from a client perspective.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. I know you said for yourself, you met at the career fair. Is that sort of the most standard way that people are getting into this field, or is there like a different way to get an entry level sort of consulting job?
Yeah, absolutely. So consulting has historically always been one of those careers that you kind of start what we call an industry, which is pretty much any job outside of consulting, and then you make your way to consulting. But now what we're seeing in like trends is that a lot of consulting firms are trying to create their pipeline of students like from student to professional now. So even Slalom, Accenture, Big Four, they're all doing some sort of program that's helping students ramp up, learn, and be able to hit the floor running in terms of consulting. So with that being said, those are definitely the ones you want to watch out for at the career fair. The reason why is because they are looking for people with obviously no experience, right? Like they're looking for someone they can train, and it's just so much easier than if you're already graduated and trying to pursue this career and you have no experience. Like that just makes it so much harder. So I definitely recommend utilizing the university resources and when these companies come and present to students.
Right. And so is this like trying to get like a summer internship in consulting? Because I know that that's something like some of my friends have done. Is that sort of kind of where you're seeing the trend shift to, like starting with the internship and then entering the company or the field?
100%. So it's either through an internship or through like an entry level role, which
Mhm.
a lot of companies now have. Being able to kind of have that first step in, and then they can train you. And obviously, you learn a lot on the job. And most of the work that we do, you learn it on the job. So any chance that you have as a student to kind of get in there and just, whether it's an internship, whether it's a very, very entry level role, will kind of guide your path towards consulting.
Great, awesome. And I guess kind of just going off on that, a lot of my friends that are, or the people I know that are in consulting are more from like a business major background or like an econ major background. Like, how do you think that your undergraduate degree in mathematics sort of helped you get there, or if you have like a different sort of role than them and how that kind of shaped your career?
Yeah, yeah, of course. So when we think of consulting, right, we typically think of strategy consulting, which
Mhm.
is typically your business majors, your MBA students, et cetera. But there's actually a giant world of consulting. That's just kind of one subset of consulting. So with that being said, my math degree, right, very much aligned with data and analytics and kind of the activities that I did when I was at UCI. So with that being said, you can really go into consulting in any industry, like even there's actuarial consultants, there's data and analytics consultants, there's software engineer consultants, which we have within my current company. So with that being said, I think it's mostly choosing like an area that you're interested in and seeing the opportunities that exist within the consulting space.
Okay. So with like data analytics consulting, is it like a company will come to you guys with like a problem with like a bunch of data and just like try to draw conclusions from it? I assume that's like a very simplified version of what actually happens, but is it kind of along those fields more than strategy stuff?
Yeah. So there is a strategy element to data consulting. And mostly it's more along the lines of like data architecture, right? So there's a lot of different tools that go into data and analytics. So you can consult from a strategy perspective, but it will most likely be a data strategy, right? Trying to understand, what is the business current state in terms of data architecture? What kind of systems exist? What tools are they using, et cetera? And then trying to find a better solution for them if that's something that they're interested in. That's just one way you can consult in this space. Another way you can consult is, of course, like you said, they come to you with a business problem and you're trying to do analytics around it. Best make use of their data. Other things you can do is getting into data engineering, which is creating data pipelines that move data from one source to another source, which is often a huge problem in a lot of clients that we see. And finally, the other is whether it's creating a new dashboard, right? Data visualization, or maybe doing an analysis via like data science. That's another space that many people can play in. The data and analytics world is so huge. So there's a lot of different ways you can go and a lot of different skill sets you can flex. So for example, if you want to go very deep and be very, very technical, right? Flexing those computer science skills, you can do that in data engineering. But if you want to go more business and people oriented data, data strategy might be another space that might be of interest.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. The next question I have is just with consulting, what's something that's like really surprised you in like maybe the last couple of years, or just since you started, that you didn't really expect going in?
That's a good question. I think the first thing, of course, was going into consulting is understanding what it really was. But I think the other thing too is that we're seeing different trends, right? I think historically, consulting has always been kind of this very fast-paced, travel-oriented, like you're traveling every day and you come back on the weekends and you're working 90 plus hours. I think we're moving away from that trend, especially with the big four is always going to be big four. They're fast paced and they're very competitive for a reason, because you'll learn so much so quickly. But with that being said, it can lead to burnout very quickly. But you're starting to see other consulting firms, smaller ones, pop up that care more about the way that your work-life balance, the types of projects that you're working on, et cetera. So I think it's a really fun time to be in consulting, especially unfortunately, there's a lot of layoffs going on and all of that good stuff. So something that I do notice in consulting is even though we're the first to get cut off, as soon as things come back, we're probably the first to ramp back up, just because, in a way, we are a resource, right, to companies. So we can quickly get cut, but at the same time, we can quickly come in, and that really allows us to flex so many different skills and learn so much. I think the other thing too is that we focus a lot on learning like technical skills, right? Like SQL, coding, et cetera.
Right.
But there's a very business element to consulting. And I think this is the piece that I really love, is that, it is about making business decisions, and then everything that we do should be oriented towards people and business. So that's the fun skill, is being able to bridge between business and technology.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's I had a couple follow-ups, but the first one is like getting those like really strong like people or business skills. Like I'm a math major too, and a lot of times our classes here at UCI, it's just you go, you sit in lecture, you just try to digest as much as you can and do that every day. So like, how would you recommend that someone who is coming from a major where it is maybe a little bit less collaborative, like how do they try to build those skills?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say consulting is a very relationship oriented industry,
Mhm.
meaning that, the way that we get new work and all of that, it has to depend on the way that we build relationships with people. So the best way that I would recommend is starting to flex those networking skills now. I can probably predict that a lot of math majors, a lot like myself, are introverts, right? We're very
Yeah.
introverted people. We enjoy doing things on our
Mhm.
own. But networking and building relationships is definitely a skill set. And it's something that the sooner you practice, the more confident you feel about it. So, it could be just something as small as like, hey, let's get together a study group. And I know that's going to involve maybe reaching out to your
Mhm.
classmates, which is really scary because I definitely didn't do that at UCI. But starting to reach out and starting to create community and starting to build relationships and understand how to talk to others or how to like communicate with others it's going to be a huge skill set for math majors, especially because we're so focused on these more
Mhm.
like advanced topics, right?
Of course, yeah. Great. Thank you. And then the next question, I know you talked about that shift in consulting to being, able to have like a better work-life balance. Like is your work-life balance sort of at a place where you like want it to be right now? Is that something you've been able to get through consulting?
Absolutely. I think starting off in consulting, my work life balance was not great and for good reason, right? I was starting to learn, I'm trying to pick up as much as I can. And I think as you're moving through your career, you start learning how to say no to things, right? Everything you say yes to is no to something else. So knowing how to prioritize is so important, especially in this role. You'll learn it very quickly and as you step into the kind of the business world. So I would say right now my work-life balance is great. There are some days I do have to work a little bit late, but for the most
Mhm.
part, it balances us out because there's some days where maybe things are a little slower and I have more time to myself or, just kind of waiting around for something. So I think it's definitely balances out, but there's some days that, are a little busier than others.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, makes sense. And then I guess another question is just what do you wish you'd known before starting consulting or something you'd say to yourself like right before you started your first job in consulting?
Well, I wish I definitely knew about consulting
Uh-huh.
so I can make a better decision about what my role would be coming out of school. But I think the biggest one is going back to that networking skills, like just learning how to network, just learning how to reach out to people, reach out to strangers, right? I think like as students, you're about to start this journey of transitioning out of college, and that's going to involve, it's almost like a shock, right? Because I think right now your professors are ideally very approachable. They're very easy to
Mhm.
approach. They're easy to communicate with, or I mean, like reach out to them for help, right? Like you can reach out to them and their job is to help you. They're professors, right? Versus when you go into the real world, you realize that not everyone's going to help you,
Of course.
but being able to ask the question, right? Being comfortable with saying, hey, I need help, or hey, I would like to get to know you, or I would love to have a coffee chat with you. Those are things that I never thought about doing. And, I highly advocate for that because as you're starting to build your network, that's going to help you in your future, whether it's currently or later in time. So I wish I definitely knew how to network better. I wish I knew how to utilize those resources at the Career Center, but lesson learned. So I definitely advocate for that.
Awesome. And then I guess just one last question. I know like this is for the mentorship program. So for someone that is maybe interested in consulting, looking for a mentor, like how could they reach out to you or what should they expect? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously I'm part of the mentorship program myself. So I currently have a mentee.
Okay.
That's the most of my bandwidth at the moment.
Okay.
But with that being said, right, don't be afraid to reach out to me if you like if anyone has any questions. I'm easily available via LinkedIn. That's my preferred way of people reaching out to me. But also look at my network. I'm obviously very connected with a lot of different consultants. And if there's someone doing the type of work that you're interested in or just have a question about, most people are more than happy to have a coffee chat. Reach out on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm interested in knowing more about what you do or your day to day. Would you be interested in like a 15-20 minute coffee chat? And most people will say yes. And if they don't, like don't worry about it. Don't don't
Mhm.
sweat it. Go on to the next person, right? Someone will be out there and will be happy to help.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, we'll have like your name and everything on the video and it'll all be linked on our website and Steph will send that over to you when it's done also. But yeah, that's everything I had. I think we went a little bit over, but thank you so much.
Yeah, no
Um,
problem. Happy to help.
yeah, just